Hello guys, today, we are going to talk about a topic called, Who is William Shakespeare? And today's my guests are Deandre, Dreamy, and Mary. So without wasting any time, let's begin with the topic. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor who was born on April 23, 1564, and died on April 23, 1616. He is widely regarded as one of the most important writers in the English language and one of the world's most influential dramatists. Shakespeare is also often called the Bard of Avon, a name associated with Stratford-upon-Avon, the Warwickshire town where he was born and raised. His plays and poems have been performed, studied, translated, and adapted around the world for centuries. William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire, England. Shakespeare was baptized on April 26, 1564. April 23 is traditionally celebrated as his birthday, although there is no surviving document that confirms the date as his actual date of birth.
William Shakespeare's parents were John Shakespeare and Mary Arden. John Shakespeare was a glover, a businessman involved in several activities, and a local official who served in municipal positions in Stratford. Mary Arden came from a family that owned land in Warwickshire. William was the third of their 8 children and the eldest surviving son. Very little documentary evidence survives about Shakespeare's childhood and education. There is no surviving school register proving exactly where he studied. However, it is generally believed that he attended the King's New School in Stratford, a grammar school. If he attended, his education would have included subjects typical of grammar schools of the period, particularly Latin grammar and classical literature.
In 1582, Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway. He was 18 years old, while Anne was 26. They had 3 children. Their first child, Susanna, was baptized in 1583. In 1585, they had twins, Hamnet and Judith. Hamnet died in 1596 at the age of 11. After the birth of his twins, there is a period in Shakespeare's life for which relatively little documentary evidence survives. The years between approximately 1585 and 1592 are often called his lost years. Many stories have been proposed about what Shakespeare might have done during this period, but there is not enough reliable evidence to establish all of those stories as facts. Therefore, we cannot say with certainty what Shakespeare did during these years.
By 1592, Shakespeare was known in London's theatrical world. He was working as an actor and playwright and became associated with the Lord Chamberlain's Men, a leading theatre company. He was also a shareholder in the company. In 1603, after James I became King of England, the company received royal patronage and became known as the King's Men. Shakespeare's involvement with the theatre went beyond writing plays. He performed as an actor and had a financial interest in his theatre company. In 1599, members of the Lord Chamberlain's Men built the Globe Theatre on the south bank of the River Thames. Shakespeare was one of the company's shareholders, and the Globe became an important venue for performances of his plays. Many of Shakespeare's plays were performed during his lifetime. His works were produced during a period when theatre was an important form of entertainment in England. Shakespeare wrote for audiences who watched plays performed by actors rather than simply reading them as books.
Shakespeare produced most of his known works between approximately 1589 and 1613. His plays are traditionally divided into comedies, histories, and tragedies, although some works do not fit neatly into only one category. His comedies include A Midsummer Night's Dream, Much Ado About Nothing, As You Like It, and Twelfth Night. These plays often involve romantic relationships, mistaken identities, conflicts, friendship, and humor. He also wrote history plays, including Richard II, Henry IV, Henry V, and Richard III. These plays are based on historical figures and events, particularly from English history. However, they are dramatic works rather than modern historical accounts, so their portrayal of historical events should not automatically be treated as completely accurate history. Shakespeare's tragedies include some of his best-known works, such as Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, and Julius Caesar. Romeo and Juliet tells the story of 2 young people from families involved in a long-running conflict. Hamlet follows the Prince of Denmark as he deals with the death of his father and questions of revenge and responsibility. Othello explores jealousy, deception, and betrayal. Macbeth focuses on ambition, power, and their consequences. King Lear explores family conflict, authority, betrayal, and suffering.
Shakespeare's later works include plays that are often described as romances or tragicomedies. These include The Winter's Tale and The Tempest. During the later part of his career, Shakespeare also worked with other playwrights. Around 1613, Shakespeare appears to have withdrawn from most of his theatrical activities and returned to Stratford-upon-Avon. The exact circumstances of his retirement are not completely known, so it is more accurate to say that he appears to have retired rather than claiming that every detail of his later life is certain. Shakespeare was also a poet. His surviving poetry includes 154 sonnets and 3 long narrative poems, along with other verses. His narrative poems include Venus and Adonis and The Rape of Lucrece. Both were published during his lifetime. His sonnets were published in 1609. The sonnets and other poems explore subjects including love, beauty, time, desire, mortality, and human relationships. However, we should not automatically assume that every person, emotion, or situation in Shakespeare's poetry represents an event from his own life. The exact relationship between his poetry and his personal experiences is not always known. Shakespeare spent the later part of his life in Stratford-upon-Avon. He died there on April 23, 1616, at the age of 52. He was buried in the chancel of Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon.
7 years after Shakespeare's death, an important collection of his plays was published. In 1623, his fellow actors John Hemminges and Henry Kendall helped publish the first folio. The collection contained 36 plays and included works that had not previously been printed. The first folio played an important role in preserving Shakespeare's dramatic works. Some of the plays included in it might otherwise have been much more difficult to preserve and pass on to later generations. Shakespeare's reputation continued to develop after his death. His plays were performed and published repeatedly, and his works eventually became known far beyond England. They were translated into many languages and adapted into theater productions, films, television programs, books, and other forms of art and entertainment. His works continue to be studied because of their language, characters, dramatic structures, and exploration of subjects such as love, ambition, jealousy, betrayal, power, family, conflict, and death.
Even though Shakespeare is one of the most famous writers in history, many details of his private life remain unknown. Only a limited number of documents about his life have survived. This lack of evidence has led to many stories and theories about him. There have also been claims that someone other than William Shakespeare wrote the works traditionally attributed to him. However, these alternative authorship theories are rejected by the overwhelming majority of Shakespeare scholars and literary historians. William Shakespeare is generally accepted as the author of the works traditionally attributed to him.
William Shakespeare was one of the most influential writers in English literature. From his beginnings in Stratford-upon-Avon to his successful career in London's theatres, he created plays and poetry that have remained important for generations. His famous works, including Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and King Lear, continue to be read, performed, and studied around the world. More than 400 years after his death, Shakespeare's stories, characters, and language still capture the imagination of audiences everywhere. William Shakespeare's life may have ended in 1616, but his works continue to live on. And that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching this video, and have a nice day to you, everyone.